My name is Perik Norman. I'd like to thank you once again for tuning into my show. Today I have a special guest for y'all. He's a former Marine and survivor of the Vietnam War. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Larry Buchanan, and like you said, I fought in the Vietnam War. When I was 18, I signed up for the draft, and I went with my best friend from throughout growing up, whose name was Zach Zwingli, and we deployed into country not long after.
Cool.
Well, they were called the Viet Cong, and what was difficult was they knew the terrain very well.
Yeah.
They had grown up there. They knew all of the paths and the rivers and everything like that. They were able to move very, very quickly, but disappear just as fast as they had come, which
Gotcha.
made them very hard to fight.
During this war?
Well, I mainly served just with my friend Zach Zwingli.
Tell me a little bit about your buddy Zach before we kind of get into that.
So Zach, like the rest of us, a big tobacco addict, but besides that, he was an excellent fighter. He was not afraid to get his hands dirty. He was brave in every circumstance.
Awesome. So tell me through the initial skirmish that you talked about in your book that you wrote.
So Zach and I were following some footprints along this road that led towards a river, which we knew was a high traffic area for the Viet Cong. And when we got down, we spotted the Viet Cong with the leader congregating around that river waiting on a supply shipment. So we moved off to the left into some heavy cover and then picked the main guy out and started shooting. But unfortunately, he was able to escape. We did take out quite a few of his men and stop the supply shipment, so that was a success. But we didn't obviously get him.
Yeah. Sort of the chapter 3, you kind of talked about that long range shot that you took on him, and you can continue to explain it, but I heard it was quite a long shot.
And we saw that it was our guy.
Right.
And so he shouted off the windage and the elevation and everything, and I dialed it in on my scope, and I thought I put what was a good shot, and still to this day I don't know what happened.
What did he end up doing?
Well, he obviously knew we were there and was scared because he was by himself. So he took off and threw a grenade, but it was nowhere close to where we were.
Right, that's good.
This is another advantage that the Viet Cong have over us, is they know the terrain well enough to navigate it at night, whereas we're pretty much lost at night. So we would dig in foxholes and take turns watching throughout the night. So Zach and then me. And I was out on scouting, recon, just in the perimeter around our camp, and Zach was digging the foxhole, and that's how we were going to spend the night.
Dude, they're coming.
So while they were not able to extract us at this point, they were able to drop us supplies like much needed food and ammunition, which we were running low on. And then while we were moving through this field, we got into a major firefight. And we knew that our only hope of survival was to call in an airstrike, which a lot of the times in the Vietnam War were not very effective, simply because the airstrike, the two opposing forces were always so close together that the airstrike would normally take out both of them. So it would kill the Viet Cong, but it would also probably kill you and your men. So, but we knew we had to risk it to get out of it.
So the final moments of your book, probably the most heart-wrenching and really captured sort of the attitude that the American people had towards the Vietnam War back then. It was very, very divided on whether we should have, as Americans, gotten involved with that, with the heavy losses both sides of America. Your story in particular really kind of lends itself to that argument. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, well, where this story picks off is where right after the supply drop and the airstrike, when the airstrike had come in, that we thought that it had taken out the remainder of the Viet Cong, but it turns out they had called in backup or something like that, because there were some more hiding out in the bushes. I'd say between 20 and 30 Viet Cong soldiers, and we were moving through the field, and I was running point. Zach was covering me behind, and we were about to make it to the woods line, where we would probably be able to make it safely. And that's when they shot him, and it was just difficult for me because I knew that since I was running point, that bullet was probably meant for me. And it was just everything that happened after that was chaos. It's all in slow motion. Him hitting the ground, dragging him off, seeing the bullet wound, hearing his final breaths and his final wishes, and that was just tough. And another really hard thing for me was that I was not able to take his body back, give that to his family, because it was just me. And at that moment, my whole mission was survival, to make it back. So that's where it ends.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for fighting for our country so long ago. Check out his book on Amazon.com. It's a great read. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.